All right, the Blazers take on the Nets, 3 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Sunday, November 27th, 2022. Brooklyn's the 8-point favorite, totals 224. And if you like the Blazers in an upset win on the road here, they're plus 240 for some moneyline cash. Now, real quick, I'm 3-0 in my last 3 board member tier package bets on my website. And I'll include a link for today's board member tier package bet in the description section below. If you sign up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, guys, I'm actually going to include all access to all my cheaper memberships on my site, absolutely free. They'll be included with your purchase. I currently have over 630 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. Now, the Blazers are still going to work without Dame Lillard. Looks like he's going to be out till early December with that calf injury. And even when these guys are mostly healthy, the Blazers have had some issues on the offensive end of the court. They're in the bottom 10 in the league right now in scoring, and they're one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the West. They're facing a Brooklyn squad who's doing a nice job shooting the basketball themselves. These guys are actually in the top 10 in offensive three-point percentage. They're also leading the NBA. They're leading the NBA right now in shooting percentage from the field. Kevin Durant's making 53% of his field goals. He's also the team's leading scorer with 29 points a night. Meanwhile, Kyrie Irving, he's right behind him with 25 points a game himself, along with 4 boards, 4 assists. When it comes to defensive play, the Nets are currently leading the NBA right now in defensive field goal percentage. Now, injury-wise, Watanabe's out for Brooklyn. Lillard is out for the Blazers. When it comes to the total, Portland saw 5 out of their last 9 stay under the line. Meanwhile, Brooklyn saw unders against the likes of Toronto, the Clippers, and this very Portland team. I'm going to lean toward Brooklyn, -8, under 224. Next matchup, it is going to be Warriors at the T-Wolves, 3:30 Eastern tip-off. Golden State's the 2-point favorite on the road, totals 237. Now, there are some problem areas if you're thinking about betting on either team here. Golden State's currently amongst the worst defensive rebounding teams in the game right now. Meanwhile, on the other side for Minnesota, they also find themselves in the bottom 10 in defensive boards as well. Now, when it comes to offensive production, the T-Wolves have been little threat shooting from three-land. And the Warriors on the other side, they're also amongst the worst offensive rebounding teams in the Western Conference as well. So certainly some areas of concern if you're looking to fire on this game. Now, injury-wise, Andre Iguodala is still out with a hip injury for Golden State. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, McLaughlin is still out for them. When it comes to the total, the T-Wolves saw overs recently against the Sixers, Magic, and Cavaliers. Meanwhile, Golden State saw 5 out of their last 8 get over the line themselves. Now, when it comes to selecting a winner in this one, this game's being featured as my NBA tier package bet on my website. So if you want to see whether I like the T-Wolves catching a basket at home, or if I like Golden State laying a bucket on the road, there's only one way to find out, and that's to sign up for my NBA tier package bet on my website. And I'll include a link for that play in the description section below. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, I'm going to lean toward the over 237 in that contest. Next matchup, it is going to be Pacers at the Clippers, 4 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Indiana's the 1.5-point favorite on the road, totals 221. Now, the Pacers got the W in 8 out of their last 10. They're doing a pretty nice job on offense. These guys are currently in the top 10 in team scoring, and they're led by Tyrese Halliburton, who's averaging nearly 20 points a game. Meanwhile, Benny Mathurin, he's drilling over 42% of his shots from three-land. Now, the Pacers are facing a Clipper team on the other side who's still going to work without Kawhi, Paul George, and Luke Kennard. But even when these guys are mostly healthy, the Clippers are still scoring fewer points a game than any other team in the association. This is a team who really struggles getting points. Now, total-wise, the Clippers went 6-3 to the under in their last 9. No real surprise there. Meanwhile, Indy saw unders against the likes of Minnesota, Orlando, and Houston. I'm going to lean toward Indiana -1.5, under 221. Next ball game, Heat at the Hawks, 5 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Atlanta's the 5.5-point favorite. Totals 224 and a hook. Now, the Hawks are in the top 10 in scoring, and they're one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the East. Trae Young's leading the roster with 28 points a game, along with 9 assists. DeJounte Murray, he's also scoring over 21 points a game himself. They're facing a banged-up Miami team who's struggled guarding the field goal. These guys are actually in the bottom 10 in defensive field goal percentage. And when it comes to offensive production, this is one of the worst shooting teams in the game right now. Of course, what I mean by that is they're in the bottom 5 in shooting from the field. And they also have one of the lower three-point percentages in the Eastern Conference. Now, they're also going to work without a few key guys here. They're banged up. They're going to work without Jimmy Butler and possibly Duncan Robinson. We got a handful of guys who are questionable right now. It looks like Robinson, Kane, Vincent, Dedmon, Martin, and Strus, they're all listed as day-to-day for Miami. When it comes to the total, the Heat did see they went 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Atlanta saw overs against the likes of Houston, Toronto, and Milwaukee. I'm going to lean toward the Hawks, minus 5.5, over 224 and a hook. Next ball game, it is going to be Wizards at the Celtics, 6 o'clock Eastern start time. Boston's minus 8, totals 222. Now, the Celtics' leading scorer, Jason Tatum, is out today. He's actually nursing an ankle injury. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Celtics as a team, they've had a tough time getting boards. They're in the bottom 10 in the league in both offensive and defensive rebounding. They're facing a Washington team who's one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the game. They're also led by Bradley Beal, who's scoring a team-best 23 points a night. He's also making 40% of his three-pointers. Now, teammate Kristaps Porzingis, he's averaging over 20 points a game himself, along with 8 boards. And when it comes to defensive play, well, Washington is currently in the top 5 in the league in defending the field goal. Now, injury-wise, Kuzma, Hachimura, Morris, and Davis, they're all listed as questionable for Washington. Meanwhile, for Boston, once again, Jason Tatum sitting this one out with an ankle. When it comes to the total, 5 out of Boston's last 7 did stay under the number. Meanwhile, Washington saw unders against the likes of the Hornets, Heat, and Grizzlies. I'm going to lean toward Washington plus 8, keeping this one close, under 222. Next game, Cavs, Pistons, 6 o'clock Eastern start time. Cleveland's the 7-point favorite on the road, totals 218. Now, the Cavs got the W in 4 out of their last 5 ball games, and they failed to cover only one time during that stretch. These guys have also been playing some really tough defense. They're allowing just 108 points per contest, and they're leading the league in defensive boards. Now, scoring-wise, Donovan Mitchell's averaging 30 points a game, and he's making 42% of his long balls. Meanwhile, Darius Garland's also shooting 42% from beyond the arc. He's currently second on the team in scoring. Now, they're facing a Pistons squad on the other side of things who allows over 117 points a night, and they rank in the bottom 5 in guarding the field goal. These guys really struggling on the defensive end of the court. And speaking of field goals, well, offensively, the Pistons have the lowest offensive field goal percentage in the game right now. Now, injury-wise, Bogdanovich, Hayes, Ivy, and Joseph are questionable for Detroit. Meanwhile, for the Cavs, Love and Stevens are out. Allen and LeVert are questionable for them. When it comes to the number, Cleveland saw overs recently against the likes of Milwaukee, Charlotte, and Minnesota. Meanwhile, Detroit went 70% to the over in their last 10. No real surprise there with their bad defense. Give me Cleveland minus 7 over 218. Next matchup, Grizzlies, Knicks, 6 o'clock Eastern start time. Memphis is minus 2.5 at MSG, totals 227. Now, the Grizzlies are having little problems on the offensive end. They're scoring over 115 points a night, and they're in the top 3 in offensive boards. Big Steven Adams, he's averaging double-digit rebounds a game for Memphis. And, of course, Ja Morant, he's the team's leading scorer with 28 points a night. Now, they're facing a New York squad who allows over 116 points a game themselves. And they do a terrible job of rebounding on defense. These guys are actually in the bottom 3 in defensive boards. When it comes to offensive production, The Knicks have the lowest three-point percentage out of any team in the NBA. Now, injury-wise, Brunson, Reddish, and Rose are questionable for New York. Meanwhile, for Memphis on the other side, Xavier Tillman's questionable for them. When it comes to the total, New York saw overs recently against the likes of Portland, Oklahoma City, and Detroit. Meanwhile, Memphis saw 3 out of their last 4 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Memphis minus 2.5, over 227. Next matchup here, it is going to be 76ers at the Magic, 6 o'clock Eastern start time in Orlando. The Magic's minus 2, totals 213. And even though the Magic's facing a banged-up Sixer team, that's why they're favored again for 2 games in a row against these guys. But Orlando's really just not playing great basketball right now. They lost 5 out of their last 6, and they're scoring only 108 points a game. Now, Orlando's also got one of the lower three-point percentages in the Eastern Conference. They're facing a Philly team who still plays some tough defense despite their injuries. These guys are currently the toughest team to shoot the three-pointer against. They're also allowing a league-low 106 points a game. Now, offensively, probably wondering who's going to do the scoring here for these guys. Well, Tobias Harris, he's averaging 16 points a game, and he's shooting over 46% from the field. Meanwhile, George Niang is making over 46% of his shots from downtown. Now, injury-wise, Embiid, Maxey, and Harden are still out. Springer and Thibault are also sitting this one out here today as well for Philly. Meanwhile, for Orlando on the other side, Harris, Ross, Suggs, Carter, and Okeke are questionable for them. Cole Anthony is still out with that oblique injury. When it comes to the total, Orlando went 6-2 to the under in their last 8. Meanwhile, Philadelphia saw 6 out of their last 8 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia plus 2, under 213. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Mavs at the Bucks, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Milwaukee's minus 7, totals 215. And no real surprise here, guys. The Bucks are led by Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's scoring a team-best 31 points a game. Now, the Greek Freak's also getting 11 rebounds a night as well. And Big Brook Lopez, he's draining over 40% of his shots from beyond the arc. But, of course, the big strength of this Milwaukee team is their defensive play. They're giving up only 106, 107 points per contest. Something around there. They're one of the best teams in the game in points per contest. And they're also in the top 3 in guarding the field goal. Now, they're facing a Dallas club on the other side who's in the bottom 5 in scoring themselves, and they rank dead last in offensive boards. Kind of ironic because Luka Doncic is getting so many points a game, but still, Dallas as a team, they're in the bottom 5 in points per game. And as a team, well, Dallas is on a 3-game losing streak, and they're one of the worst covering teams in the association. Out of Dallas's 18 ball games this year, they covered in just 22% of those contests. Now, injury-wise, Dallas is relatively healthy at the moment, so one of, there's a minor bright spot here if you're capping this game. Meanwhile, Milwaukee, Ibaka's out, Connaughton's questionable. And when it comes to the scoring, Milwaukee saw unders against the likes of the Sixers, Cavaliers, and the Spurs. Meanwhile, Dallas went 60% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Milwaukee minus 7, under 215. And with that, guys, now it's time for our quick pick recap. I like Brooklyn minus 8, under 224. Give me the over 237 in the Golden State, Minnesota game. I'm 3-0 in my last 3 board member tier package bets on my website. And if you sign up for that package today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They'll be included with your purchase. I like Indiana minus 1.5, under 221. Atlanta minus 5.5, over 224 and a hook. Washington plus 8, under 222. Cleveland minus 7, over 218. Memphis minus 2.5, over 227. Philadelphia plus 2, under 213. With my next and final free pick, give me Milwaukee minus 7, under 215.